There is something about Phoenix in the 1970s that stays fixed in the minds of the people who were there. The sun dominated the day. The city stretched wide instead of building tall. Everything felt open, exposed, and deliberate. Phoenix was being pulled forward by movement. New residents arrived steadily. Development followed without pause. Neighborhoods appeared where the desert had been. Roads were laid first. Buildings came after. Many people came chasing a future that felt simpler and more controllable. Phoenix offered room to grow, room to drive, room to decide how life would take shape. Wide intersections built for turning lanes, shopping centers set back behind rows of parking spaces, air conditioning units running from morning until night. Sun visors flipped down even in winter. AM and FM stations played through car speakers while traffic lights counted down the day. If you were there, you remember how it worked. Walk back through that routine and look at Phoenix as it was, steady, exposed, and moving forward without doubt. Entertainment in Phoenix stayed indoors and close by. Evenings usually began with the television on. Local stations filled living rooms across neighborhoods near Camelback Road, Maryvale, and South Phoenix. The Wallace and Ladmo show came on at predictable hours. Kids sat on the carpet. Parents listened while doing other things. Everyone knew the characters. No one explained the jokes. Radio followed people everywhere else. Cars leaving driveways carried sound with them. AM talk during the day. FM rock after sunset. KDKB stayed on through long stretches of Central Avenue and Indian School Road. Music filled the space between traffic lights and left turns. It was part of the drive, not an event. Malls were cultural spaces as much as retail ones. Metrocenter Mall pulled people from Glendale, North Phoenix, and farther east. Teenagers walked in groups. Adults sat near planters and food counters. Record stores, arcades, department store entrances. The cold air mattered as much as anything being sold. Late in the decade, live music had fixed locations. The Mason Jar became one of them. Bands loaded equipment through side doors. Crowds packed in tight. No seating, no showmanship. Just volume and relief from the heat. Culture in Phoenix did not gather outside. It gathered wherever the doors closed and the air stayed cool. Mornings started in the driveway. Garage doors lifted. Engines turned over. Traffic built along Camelback Road, Van Buren Street, and Indian School Road before the sun climbed too high. Workdays began early because afternoons slowed everything down. Homes were low and spread out. One-story houses with flat roofs and block walls filled streets in Glendale, Tempe, and West Phoenix. Driveways held 2 cars if parked carefully. Apartment complexes sat close to major roads, designed for access, not quiet. Rent checks and mortgage payments set the tone for long-term plans. Midday changed the pace. Streets thinned out. Front windows darkened. Air conditioners ran without stopping. Inside, televisions stayed on. Kids moved between bedrooms and living rooms. Kitchen tables held homework, grocery receipts, and mail. Drive-through windows along 7th Avenue or Thomas Road. Paper bags placed on passenger seats. Burgers eaten before the engine cooled. People sat in parked cars outside houses or apartment buildings, finishing meals before going inside. Sports fit easily into life in Phoenix. Games were planned around, not dressed up. Televisions turned on at the same time in different houses. Neighbors showed up without calling. Folding chairs came out of closets. Everyone knew when it mattered. Basketball carried the most weight. The Phoenix Suns were no longer just another team on the schedule. During the finals run, nights stayed busy. Cars did not move. Meals waited. Attention stayed on the screen. When the series reached the 5th game against the Boston Celtics, people remember the length of it. Overtime after overtime. The game kept going when it should have been over. The response looked the same across the valley. Houses in Tempe, apartments near 7th Avenue, places in Glendale, televisions on, radios playing in cars, people talking at gas stations because everyone had seen the same plays. Bars were smaller then. One television, limited seating, standing room near the counter. Conversations happened during timeouts, not commercials. When the game ended, people stayed put. They talked through what they had just watched before heading home. That stretch changed how the city saw itself. Phoenix felt involved, not on the outside, not waiting its turn. For a moment, it felt like the city belonged in the national picture, and people carried that feeling into the days that followed. Getting around Phoenix meant driving. There was no alternative built into daily life. Mornings started with keys in hand and routes already decided. Central Avenue, Camelback Road, Van Buren Street, Indian School Road, wide lanes, long lights, left turns that took patience. Distance was normal. 10 miles did not feel far. Gas stations were fixed reference points. Pulling in was routine. Price boards were checked without much thought until the end of the decade, when people started noticing changes. Pumps clicked slower. Fill-ups took longer. Conversations happened while waiting. No one lingered after. Cars reflected practicality more than status. Compact models filled parking lots at schools, offices, and malls. Ford Pintos and Chevrolet Chevettes parked side by side under no shade. Interiors heated up fast. Seat covers stuck to skin. Sun visors stayed down year-round. Dashboards cracked over time. Everyone recognized the smell of hot vinyl. Traffic was steady but predictable. Rush hour moved in clear waves. Early morning toward downtown. Late afternoon back out toward Mesa, Glendale, and newer developments, pushing farther into open land. Free parking was expected. Walking across large lots was part of the routine. Driving shaped time. Errands were grouped. Stops were planned in order. Turning the car off meant the day was slowing down. Turning it back on meant something else needed to be done. Phoenix did not ask people to slow their pace. It asked them to manage it from behind the wheel. Life moved forward one intersection at a time, measured by red lights, gas stops, and the space between destinations. Construction was always visible in Phoenix. Not in one place, but spread out. Downtown had cranes and concrete forms. New office buildings went up near Central Avenue while empty land on the edges of the city disappeared section by section. Chase Tower stood as a clear marker of where business was concentrating, but most growth stayed low and wide. Air travel became part of the city's daily rhythm. Sky Harbor International Airport expanded through the decade. Planes were easy to see from nearby roads, flying low over traffic before landing. The new Terminal 3 took shape in the late 70s. Construction trucks moved in and out. Parking structures rose next to the runways. The airport felt less like a stopover and more like infrastructure the city depended on. Work followed the same pattern. Offices downtown, warehouses near rail lines, light industrial buildings along major roads. Jobs were spread out, not clustered. People drove to work from every direction. There was no single employment center that defined the city. Shopping and services filled the gaps. Banks, medical offices, auto repair shops, everything built with parking in front. Signs large enough to read from the road. Nothing hidden. Phoenix did not grow by preserving old buildings or restoring historic districts. It grew by replacing open land. Concrete replaced dirt. Painted lines replaced tire tracks. Each new project looked forward, not back. By the end of the decade, the city felt permanent. Not finished, but established. The infrastructure was in place. Roads connected everything. The airport connected Phoenix to the rest of the country. The city had built enough of itself to keep going. Living in Phoenix meant dealing with the desert even as the city spread over it. Heat was expected. Other things were not. When storms arrived, they did not behave gently. Roads built for dry conditions filled fast. Intersections turned into shallow basins. Cars stalled where they were not meant to stop. The Labor Day storm, tied to Tropical Storm Norma, changed how people looked at the weather. Rain came down hard and fast. Washes filled. Streets near low crossings disappeared under moving water. Drivers misjudged depth. Engines died. Traffic backed up with nowhere to go. The city was reminded that growth had limits. After the rain passed, the damage stayed visible. Mud lines on walls, debris caught in fences, closed roads marked by temporary signs. Cleanup took time. Daily routines adjusted. Detours became familiar. People talked about which streets to avoid. Dust caused different problems. Strong winds pushed walls of dirt across open land and construction sites. Visibility dropped. Cars slowed. Windows closed. Grit collected along curbs and in doorways. The desert reminded everyone that it was still present beneath the pavement. Infrastructure worked most days, but it was tested regularly. Drainage systems lagged behind development. New neighborhoods learned lessons quickly. Phoenix was not fragile, but it was exposed. People adapted. They learned routes that stayed dry. They waited out storms instead of pushing through. The city continued to expand, but residents understood that the environment was not fully under control. The desert was always part of the deal. By the end of the decade, Phoenix had a set way of operating. People knew their routes. They knew which stores were quickest to get in and out of. They knew when to leave the house to avoid the worst traffic and heat. Daily life ran on habits that no longer needed thought. Shopping stayed tied to strip malls and parking lots. Meals were picked up and taken home. Evenings were spent indoors with televisions on and radios playing quietly. The same gas stations, the same intersections, the same storefronts came up again and again. New neighborhoods stopped feeling temporary. They filled in and stayed that way. The city no longer felt experimental. It felt usable. People planned their lives around it instead of through it. Jobs felt stable enough. Housing felt settled enough. Flights came and went at Sky Harbor without drawing attention. Downtown worked. The edges kept expanding without surprise. Phoenix did not sell itself as charming or historic. It worked because it was predictable. If you handled the heat and the driving, the city stayed consistent. You could rely on it to function the same way tomorrow. Life here was built on routine. Turning keys, parking, walking short distances across hot pavement, going back inside. That rhythm became normal. For those who lived there in the 1970s, this was Phoenix. Direct, practical, still growing, but already set in how everyday life moved forward.